My morning? It's pretty good. Yeah, I woke up. I took the train. Yeah. Um. Oh Jesus. Yeah, it's been rough. It is rough. Yeah. Well. Yeah. I take it from Metrotown, from Edmonds most of the time. It's rough. All right. So what's up? I know nothing's up there yet. Yeah, I know nothing's up there yet. It'll be up in a second. Um, today is. I'm just pulling up the right notes. Hey, all right. Word up. It's your boy. Bah, bah, bah. You know who it is. DJ Nima. Back at you again with another set of dope demos featuring some of my hottest tracks. Today's listing includes what we got. We got the hottest, beach ball apparently. All right, we'll just give the beach ball a second. There we go. All right, featuring, what are we featuring today? JavaScript. Real programmers call it JavaScript. I don't know if we've ever told you. And featuring McQuery. It's technically jQuery. So today we're learning jQuery a little bit, but my goal every cohort, and this has not worked, is I just want people to show up at job interviews and be like, yeah, no, I'm familiar with jQuery. Yes. And then employers will be like, oh no, another student of Nima, another one joins the masses. So we're going to be learning a little bit of JavaScript on the front end, and a little bit of jQuery. Today is week. What week is it? It's week 4. What? That is whack. Did you know that if you had taken the boot camp 2 years ago, right now you would be halfway through the boot camp? Fun fact. Right now, yeah, you're a third. So I don't know. Do with that information what you will. Who's feeling week 4? Like who? Do you feel like you could go on for another 10 to 12 weeks? No? You can do it. Nah, week 4 I think is a very interesting kind of turnaround point in the boot camp. So far, the projects that you've been working on have been things like the cat API thing. Do you remember that one? Right. You did the ISS spotter. Right. Pretty neat. Then you worked on. There was a little project you did last week. What was it? Yeah, tiny app. Very very small. Right. What is it? 2-day work. Right. Easy, and you got it to work right off the bat. Right. We didn't have cookies weren't. So you had the huge kind of Herculean task, the tiny app. And the thing that I don't like about tiny app personally is that there's just not enough pizzazz. There just isn't. Let's be real. The one thing that is lacking in tiny app is pizzazz. The reason that many of us become web developers is to make cool things happen on the screen, such as stuff like this. Where you go, whoa, what? Where'd you go? Bah, 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 bah. You can make particles, and then you move them around. That's cool. There was none of this in Tiny App. What? Well, we want some of this stuff to happen. think Travis sent me a pretty neat thing the other day. With you sent it to me on the staff channel? Okay, wait. Here's. Whoa! What? Amazing! Can you imagine if this was in your Tiny app, right? Every time you make a new Tiny URL, so you know, the point of it being that there's very cool things that we might want to be able to do. Now, are we going to necessarily be doing this stuff today? Probably not. But these are things happening in a computer. So somebody must have been able to communicate to the computer to tell it to do particular things. Right? Tell it to do, hey, when you click and drag the mouse, spawn a bunch of weird liquidy smoke stuff. Right? Same here. Somebody would have written some code that says, hey, when you click, spawn some new particles. And when you move the mouse, the particles should kind of flow away from you, right? And just continue like flowing around. So the point of today's lecture is kind of twofold, right? One sort of half of the lecture is about like JavaScript specifically used for new things, right? The other half of today's lecture is on this thing called, I'll stop doing that, this thing called jQuery. So I won't get around to this, like I won't even be talking about jQuery until like the second half of the lecture. Right? Heads up. So you have so far been using JavaScript to do a particular thing, right? What is the thing that you use JavaScript for in TinyApp? Does anyone remember? I mean, you did a lot on TinyApp. So. If I was to look for a JS file in your TinyApp project, what file would that be? Your Express server, right? So you were using JavaScript specifically to create a server, right? So we were in our little terminal here, and when you wanted to run your server, what was the command that you needed to run? Something like npm start, right? So npm is a command that interacts or works with a particular thing, right? And in fact, if you were to look inside of your npm start command, you'd see that there's something particularly interesting happening there. In fact, we'll just take you there. We'll go all the way back to TinyApp is what? Week 3, day 1. We got our first web server here. Whoop-pow! This is what your npm start command sort of runs. Right? I think eventually you switch it over to NodeMon, right? But it runs Node, right? And that's really important, right? Because there is this thing called Node that you have installed on your machine, right? Node. What is Node? Like, what happens when I go Node right now? Can someone give me an example of a thing that I can do now while I'm here? I can add numbers, right? 1 plus 1. Cool. Right? Who is doing the job of adding the numbers? Node, right? How? What is Node? Node is a JavaScript engine, right? Node is a program, right? Node is specifically a program that can listen for input, right? And it will evaluate that input. It did not understand this input because apparently this input is not valid JavaScript at the moment, I'm going to do some more stuff. There you go. Apparently this, also not valid JavaScript. Right? So Node will only understand stuff if you write valid JavaScript. Right? 1 + 1 is JavaScript. Right? So Node comes with an understanding, right, of some expressions that like I can create. So for example, if I do 6 divided by 2, Node understands how to do that. Right? It says, I know JavaScript. Among the other things that it can do is I can call pre-existing functions, such as console log, whatever thing. Right? And it's able to deal with that. Right? Now, I'm, at the moment, writing in JavaScript, meaning that I can use expressions that are valid, right? Little 1 + 4, all that. I can also do things like make functions, right? Because that is valid JavaScript. This here is particularly interesting to me because say that I was to, what did I do? Cancel. Say that I was to, oh man, this is just a nightmare and a half. Okay. All right, say that I was to do something to the tune of const hello equals, and this is going to be a function that console.logs. Actually, we won't even do that. We'll say return hello. Right? When I call hello right now, I get back the string hello. No big surprise. I've defined every single piece of this. Right? Const is something that's valid JavaScript. It's a thing that lets me create a variable. This is an anonymous function, again, a thing built into JavaScript. And then I'm returning a string, so then I'm able to call the function. This is, again, straightforward, because I've created this thing. Things get weird when I do something like this, though. Like console log something. And the reason that this is really weird to me is because I never defined what console log was. Right? What does that tell me if I'm able to run this function that I never defined? It comes packaged with this, right? Now, it might be a part of JavaScript, right? It might be something that's packaged into JavaScript, right? Cool. I might find that wherever I go that interprets JavaScript, maybe I'm able to use console.log. And so I could experiment with that. I could go to my browser. I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on this about blank page. Just because it lets me open up the console and not be in anything. So here's my little console. And I could test those things out, like console.log hello, or whatever. And to no surprise, this works. One of the reasons that I like working in the console on the browser is because whenever I press a letter, right, I get a lot of stuff that gets auto-suggested. And I find this just really interesting. If I go B, right, there's all kinds of stuff such as blur, BTOA, bar prop, before install prompt event, big int, right? Like all this stuff. Big uint 64 array. And apparently using these things doesn't necessarily give me an error. I like just any of these. J, object, W, WebKit media stream. These are things. Right? I'm going to do W. I'm going to type out something like window. And you see that this, again, doesn't really give me an error. Right? In fact, it just prints out something. What kind of thing is this that I'm looking at? It's an object, right? It's an object. I'm going to go over, I'm going to do this over in Node. Right? I'm going to type in window, and what did I get? Yeah, I got a reference error. Window is not defined. Right? And this is telling me something. In both of these places, I'm running JavaScript. Right? Because I know that I can go 1 + 1 here. Right? I know that this is JavaScript, and I know that this is JavaScript, but some of the things that I have access to over here, I don't have access to over here. Right? I'm going to find the same the other way as well. If I go process over on this side, there's an object called process that I can access in Node, right? If I was to do that over on the browser, that's going to give me a process is not defined error. And so evidently, the globals that I have access to when I'm working in JavaScript depend on the context that I'm working in. Right? JavaScript in Node is different than JavaScript in the browser. Right? Does that make sense to people? It's different. It's the same language, but it has access to different things because we're using the language in different contexts. So I want to say that like a language, right, is for, and then I know I've already made you do this before, so a language is for communication. Right? And I think one of the things that I might have said the first time I lectured for y'all was that you can communicate for different reasons. Like I can communicate to say, hey, how's it going? Or, hey, can you pass me the salt? But I can also communicate to be like, give me the money, right? Like those are all things that I can communicate, which are different and are different in different contexts. If I'm at dinner with my family, I might say, hey, Dad, can you pass me the salt? But I might not say, hey, Dad, give me the money. Like that's totally inappropriate, and it's not, it's not the right context. So a language is for communication, but context is important. Right? Why are we using the particular language? Right? If I'm trying to build a server, right, it makes sense for me to be able to use language that creates servers. Right? It makes sense for me to be able to use language that pulls things maybe from the command line. Right? One of the reasons that we have access to the process variable when we work in Node is because I can run Node with like, whoops. I can run Node with extra arguments. Oh wait, can I? No. We'll do this. I can run Node with extra arguments. If I go, here's a new file, and we'll just call this args.js, and we'll console.log process.argv. You've already seen this before, but when I go, when I go node args, and then I pass in some stuff, that stuff gets added to the process.argv. I'm pretty sure that's something you had to do at some point for one of your assignments, correct? But this context here of me running something like this does not make sense when I'm talking about the browser. Because how often is it that you go to a web page and you add arguments, like just extra command line arguments to your web page? Probably never, because that's not how we interact with web pages. Right? Instead, over on the website, there's other things that I might want to be able to interact with, such as when I type out the word window, whereas in the Node environment, process points to the process itself that's running, window is going to be referring to the tab that I'm working in. Right? So I might find that when I go window, I can go dot, and I'll find that there's other stuff in here, like window.open. Boop. Right? Window.open. Wow. So what I'm going to do in a second is I'm going to start using JavaScript to interact with web page. Right? You've been using JavaScript so far to interact with your computer. Right? Interacting with the file system, interacting with the networking capabilities of your computer by creating servers, right? Interacting with all kinds of stuff at the computer level. Right? In the future, you're going to be using Node, right, to interact with like databases and other stuff. Right? When JavaScript is embedded into the browser, right, the reason that it might be embedded into the browser is so that we can interact with the browser. So interestingly, JavaScript actually came out of the idea of trying to make the browser programmable. Meaning, people were making websites that were just static pages, right? Just a picture, some text, welcome to my page. And after a while, people started saying, hey, it would be really cool if we could embed some logic into web pages to do funky things, such as maybe making parts of the page move around when you move your mouse there, or maybe making different forms have different kind of capabilities. Right? And in order to embed that behavior, right, we can't use CSS, because CSS is a styling language. We can't use HTML, because HTML is a markup language. With those two languages, you can't embed logic. Right? You can't say if this, then that. You can't do things like for loops with an HTML document. But what we can use to do that is a programming language. There's millions of them, right? So many programming languages. For some reason, at the time, the person who was working on Netscape Navigator decided, hey, you know what? I'm just going to make a new one, as if there aren't enough languages out there already. So Brendan Ike, this person here is who you have to blame for JavaScript. Right? This person sat down and in like 7 days just made a language and embedded it into a pre-existing program, a browser. And it's through that that we're able to interact with things on here. So before I dive into actually playing around with the browser, does anyone have any questions around the motivation of why we would want to do this? Cool. So, I mean, we can do all our typical things, obviously, like make lets and whatever. But the place where I think the browser really shines, or JavaScript really shines in the browser, is, again, whenever we type out something weird, like blue, and I find that Bluetooth UUID shows up, right? Which is apparently a thing that you can do with your browser, dealing with Bluetooth. Neat. Here's another one. Gamepad button. Did you know that you can connect a DualShock controller, like your PlayStation controller? You can connect it to the browser. A while ago, somebody did a final project where in order to use their final project, you had to use a PlayStation controller that was connected via Bluetooth. It was madness. Super cool. Right. What else? I've shown you Window. Oh, no, now we're back at the beach ball again. There we go. I showed you Window, and inside of Window, there's all kinds of stuff, right? Window.infinity, window.bigint. Like I said, window.open is one that I'm a big fan of, right? Because apparently with this one command, I'm able to create new windows. Now, this is right now window.open creating a window to an empty place. But I might be able to, and in fact, this even shows me, I might be able to point my window.open at a URL. So window.open, we're going to go google.com. Wow, right? With the power of code, right? Who needs to use this thing anymore, right? From now on, anytime you want to navigate on the web, you just go window.open, and to the thing. If you don't want to open a new window, right, there's probably some other JavaScript command that you can make to navigate the window there. Now, before I do anything like actually useful, I want to continue playing around with this. Here's one. Navigator. So there's this thing called Navigator. Navigator is going to be able to control things like your history, right? So I'm going to go to a page that maybe I've already done some stuff on. So we're going to go look for dogs on Wikipedia. And I'm just going to read about dogs. So dogs are gray wolf. And we're going to go North America. And then we're going to go Caribbean Sea. So just a couple different pages. But something that I'm going to find that I actually have access to through JavaScript. Oh, man. I'm way too zoomed in there. Right? Through JavaScript is that I have access to, let's see, oh, okay. I have access to this like history object. Right? And the history object has a couple functions in it, including history.back. Boop. That lets me go back. History.back. And there's also a history.forward. It takes me forward. The thing that I'm trying to show you here is that if you can dream it on the browser, it's possible, right? If you can think of something that you want to do with the browser, like you can totally do it, right? In this case here, these may be pretty banal things, like, okay, I can go forward and backwards with the JavaScript like command, but there's slightly weirder things. So there's this thing, the geolocation, let's see, MDN. Ah, there we go. This right here is already kind of whack. I can just go geo, and I get the latitude and the longitude of the place that I'm currently at. Right? I could if I wanted to, right? Like I have access to geo.lat, right? Geo dot, long. Right? I have access to that. So if I wanted to show somebody on a map, I could totally do that. Right? There's also a particular command that is get current position that lives inside of navigator dot get. Oh, did I take that out? Oh, navigator dot geolocation dot get current position, which is a function where when I call it, we'll just go, we pass it a callback that I've just said takes a thing and console logs that thing. So I don't actually know what the get current position function does at the moment. But when I run this, it tells me, oh, Wikipedia wants to know your location. Right? Like, okay. And when I allow, after a little while, my callback runs, and I get my positions to like a ridiculous precision. Because this is not very precise. 49.26 in latitude and 123.1 in longitude, that's nothing. That gets me within, what, like 100 kilometers? This, not the timestamp, but this right here gets me like right here. Right? So all kinds of weird stuff built into here. Here's another one. Navigator dot get battery. What? Get battery. We're gonna go just, you know what, just console.log whatever get battery returns. This is gonna take a second. No, it's not, because I forgot to, boop. Then, this one takes a promise, then console.log. There we go. This tells me, yes, you are charging. You are at 38%. Your charging time is 6960 minutes. And if no, that doesn't make any sense. 6960 seconds probably. But if I unplug, oh, I didn't unplug. Yeah, okay, sweet. If I unplug and I give this a second, the next time I call this, it'll know that I'm no longer charging. Right? Weird. What if you wanted to change like the style of your page based on whether people are charging or not? Right? Like when people unplug, then like colors turn all dim or something. Or maybe something that's maybe a little bit more useful is maybe you have some heavy JavaScript running, but when people are unplugged, in order to help people save battery, you stop those heavy processes. Right? That's something kind of neat. What I'm trying to show you here is that JavaScript is very much a way for us to interact with the browser through a series of predefined ways of talking with the browser functionality. Okay? Where have we seen that pattern before? Like something predefining ways in which you can talk to it. API. Right? That's what we're dealing with. Right? This is not necessarily an API that lives somewhere on the web, right? This is not a REST API, right? This is not an API that we talk to with HTTP. An API is a much more broad definition of something, right? It's very vague. API just means these are the ways in which you can interact with me, right? My API is you have to high-five me before you talk to me, right? Like, my API is you have to yada, yada, yada. And this one here is there's a particular get battery API. So with today's stuff, like, I'm not going to spend too much time showing you all the different APIs that are out there. But what I do recommend you to do is you look up things like camera API and then like MDN, where MDN is the Mozilla Developer Network. And then you're going to find that there's all kinds of stuff in the web APIs, such as in this case here, it's something to deal with the camera to give you pictures, right? But there's all kinds of other stuff, right? Is there a face recognition API? Apparently Chrome has a face detection API. Cool. Scary, but cool. Speech recognition API, right? Maybe it's something that listens to you while you speak and recognizes the words that you say. So as I said, like, the first half of this lecture is very much about, if we dream it, like, we can totally do it with the browser, right? Now, there's all kinds of wacky stuff that we can do, right? Playing around with the geolocation or getting the battery level or whatever. But the most useful one, or the one that's like the most useful thing that gets done with the like browser JavaScript most of the time, has to do with the things that we see on the page, right? We're looking at an HTML document that has been rendered in a particular way. In fact, I think yesterday a big part of what you learned was working with CSS, right? And specifically working with the document object model. Right? Can anyone give me a short definition of what the DOM is? Has anyone heard of the DOM before? Is that a yes? Cool, you just incriminated yourself. All right, what's the DOM? There we go. The DOM is how the browser interprets the HTML, right? So it'll load up things like p tags, h1s. I've got a div, right? And how are these things related to each other? So maybe this div has a p tag and an h1 in it, and then this div is within another div, right? Or within a header or whatever, right? Which is within a body. Right? That's the DOM. It's this tree, right? The DOM tree that defines what our web page is, and then the browser is going to do the job of taking the DOM tree, taking the styles, right, and rendering something on the screen. Right? And what we can do is we can play around with that DOM tree. Right? You've been playing with the idea of trees over the course of, I think, like Fridays over the past couple weeks, right? Or at some point over the past couple weeks. What can we do to trees? Like, if I have something like this, how do we get rid of this? If I have something like this, so here's my tree. Just get boop. Cool. What else can I do to this tree at the moment? Is this it? Do I just look at the tree and I go, it's a nice tree. Nice. All right, here, I'll add some extra things to this tree. Here's the letter A. Here's the letter B. Here's the letter C. Here's the letter D. And here's a big E. What can I do to this tree? I could search through it. I could say, hey, where is the letter D? Right? Find me the letter D. Right? Now, if I was like a mob boss, right? And I'm like, find me the letter D. Like, what do I usually want to do with the letter D? I want to get rid of the letter D, right? find the letter D, you take care of the letter D, and you're like, all right, boss. You got rid of the letter D. That's something I can do with the letter D. Right? It's something I can do with something on a tree. Right? Look at that. Rhymes. So with trees, I can remove things. I can also add things to trees, right? I could go, oh, here's the letter A looks a little lonely. Here's the thing. Let me give you the letter F. Right? I can add things to trees. Right? And that's important, right? Because when we're dealing with JavaScript, with the DOM, right, I really want you to be thinking about the tree, where these things are not the A, B, C, D, E, F. They're H1s and divs and P tags and spans, right? But it's this idea where I want to have some operations such as find me the letter F, delete the letter E, maybe delete this whole, just all of this stuff. I'm going wild and like, get rid of all these things. Wow, right? Like just get rid of them. These are all things I want to be able to do with JavaScript. And in fact, I can. I'm going to show you that by going into something like Wikipedia, right? Where I'm going to look up unknown musician Kanye West. So here is Kanye West. And I have always wanted an article for myself. Right? I've always wanted an article for myself. So I'm going to set as a goal. This is going to take us a couple steps. I want to change the text in here to say Nima Boscarino. Right? So I'm going to open up the browser console, and I can start investigating the stuff that's in here. Now, you've spent a bit of time already taking a look at this kind of stuff. Right? This is the DOM. And there are some things in here that are interesting to me. For example, the name Kanye West, very interesting. Specifically for two reasons. One of them, I love Kanye West. The other one is, I want to be up here, right? So I need to find the location up here so that I can change it. Right? I know this is a node in the DOM tree, right? This is going to be something that looks very much like this situation here. And what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to say, hey, you learned or you worked with classes and IDs yesterday and tag names, right? I'm able to look at the stuff that makes this DOM node special, right? Such as the fact that it's an H1, right? Or such as the fact that it has the ID first heading. And I'm actually going to be able to use that in order to grab that element, right? And here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to go document. Document. Now, when I'm doing this stuff, it's actually kind of fun because I can hover over the word document and something interesting happens. Please, somebody tell me what is happening right now. Is there anything happening on the screen? KV, what's happening right now? It's turning blue. The whole screen is turning blue, right? Specifically, yes, KV, 1 point to you. Specifically, speaking of points, where's Thomas today? Oh. I'm kidding. Yeah. So, yeah. So what I'm seeing is that the entire document highlights. Yeah, that's good. The entire document highlights. And I can open up the document, and I see stuff in here. This is the whole page, right? I can actually ask for things within the document. Document dot, right? And I will find that if I press Q, right, I will find query selector. And query selector is absolutely a function that I'm allowed to use, right? There are a bunch of these, and I'm going to write these down, and then we're going to use them one by one. So there is document.querySelector, right? And document query selector is pretty neat, but you also need to know about document get element by ID, right? There's a document get elements elements by class name. Right. We'll start with this one first. What do you think this one does? It gets the elements by the ID, right? So if I give it an ID, such as first heading, lo and behold, I got the first heading element. Right? Very cool. There's also a get elements by class name. If I checked my elements, I would find that some of these have classes, such as, okay, this was a bad example. Okay, no, here we go. No, bad example. Oh, yeah. Hidden categories. Whoa. Okay, I'm trying to find like an example of this. We'll do this on Compass. And we'll do some here, class splash. I mean, legit, it would just get you all the elements by class name. Like that's all it really does. But I do want to show you that part of what's interesting about it is, say I had a bunch of things that had the same class, such as, do these have the same class? Yeah. So these are all have TOC text. And then is there another one that has TOC text? TOC text, yeah. So say I use the class TOC text and I went document get elements by class name, and I said TOC text. Right? What is interesting about this one as opposed to this one up here? There's many of them. When I say get elements by class name, I get all the things that match that class. When I say get element by ID, ideally there's only one. Right? Ideally there's only one. So I need to keep that in mind, that this is a collection of things. This is very similar to an array, an HTML collection. We're going to play with it as we go forward. Right? So get elements by ID, get elements by class name, both pretty cool. But you've learned CSS selectors now. Right? CSS selectors are very powerful. Right? You have the ability to find things by combinations of tag name, class, and ID, right? Specificity, all that stuff. And that's where we get document.querySelector. Right? And document.querySelector is like a more powerful version of this stuff, where you write your CSS selectors in here. So for example, find me an H1. Here's an H1. Right? And it's that first one that I was looking at. Right? I'm going to do another one. Find me an H2. Right? Got an H2. This H2 says contents in it. And here's the part that says, where'd you go? Where is it? Oh, there you go, contents. Boop. You see the one that's that right there. But what's interesting is that, like, if I did document dot get elements by, and then there's also another one, get elements by tag by, there, elements by tag name, and I did H2. How many H2s did it find? 18. But for some reason, document query selector H2 only found one. Right? Heads up, document query selector is going to return only the very first one that you're looking for. Only the first one. If I wanted all of them, document.querySelector all. Right? And now I got 18 things. Neat. Right? So we can receive things. Right? I can go find things such as the H1 that I was looking for. Document.querySelector H1. And what I was showing you with this is, like, if we needed to select something that was more specific, which we will do in the second half, I can toss in, find me the H1 with the class sub, right? Or find me an A tag inside of a div, right? I can do all that stuff. Nothing special with this, right? Find me the div with the ID Kanye, right? All your typical CSS selectors. Now, once I've selected my H1, I mean, it's not super helpful for me to be able to see this whole thing, because I might want to just print out the name Kanye West, right? Now, if we were looking at the DOM, right, the H1 is a full node that has some content inside of it. But this is the node. The node is the H1 with its ID and its class and its language and the content inside of it. Right? Now, I want the content inside of the H1. That is different. That's a separate thing. So I'm going to need some language to say that. Get me the content inside of this particular node. So I can save this thing. Const, I'll call this title. Right? So right now, title is that object. Right? And I want you to see that this is a special kind of object. It's a DOM object. Right? And objects have things inside of them. How do we access the things inside of objects? Camille, how do we access things inside of objects? With a dot. Right? I could also do it with the square brackets, but dot's going to be more than enough. And it'll show me all the things that exist inside of here. Right? And I can look through, and it's actually really cool. Right? One of the ones that I see immediately is this right here. Click. Right? What is title.click? It's a function, right? Meaning I could run it. So title.click, and I'm going to run this as a function, and I clicked the title. Now, clicking the title doesn't do anything, right? So I'm not immediately seeing anything happen, right? But if I wanted to, I could find another DOM node and click on that. I'm going to take a little bit of a deviation from the goal. I'm going to find that there is this random article button, which is an A tag, and you can click on A tags. So if I was to go to the ID n random page and then click the A tag inside of it, right? So this is document.query selector. ID was n random page, and I'm just going to make sure that I got that properly, which I did. And then if I said I want the A tag inside of that, here is the A tag inside of the random page li. I'm going to save this. And once I've saved it, I can go random.click. And I have clicked on something in the page with JavaScript, right? I'm like a ghost. Like, I don't even want to use the trackpad anymore. I'm just typing random and then random click again. I'm on the Taekwondo with the 2019 Pan American Games, men's 58 kilograms. Do another one. Random click. List of horror films of 2018. Which is crazy to me. You can do nuts stuff with this. You could make a script where somebody talks. Right? We saw that there's a speech recognition API, right, in JavaScript. Like, you could make a thing where people talk, and then it goes to click the particular button that you've said you want to click. Right? All with JavaScript. Right? And it probably wouldn't take that many lines of code. In fact, as I'm thinking about it right now, I might do that in the second half. Right? You see what I mean is the benefit of having a programming language embedded into a browser is that we can come up with our own features that we want to add to it. Right? We can come up with our own things that we want to add to the program itself. Has anyone here ever played Gmod before? Gary's Mod? Yeah? Okay, so there's this game called Gary's Mod. And Gary's Mod is, okay, it's really weird. But basically, it's a game that's a sandbox. And what you have access to in the game is just a bunch of objects. But then you also have access to a programming language. And you can program in the game. Like, you can code in the game to do all kinds of weird stuff. Right? Maybe something that people know a little bit more is Minecraft. Right? Has anyone here ever played Minecraft before? Cool. So some people have. Has anyone here not heard of Minecraft before? Cool. The marketing machine got to us. So in Minecraft, one of the things that you have is redstone. Right? And redstone is nuts because you can do insane things with redstone. Because Redstone lets you essentially have a programming language within the game. I think recently they've also included things like command blocks that let you actually code in the game as well, which is pretty nuts. But when you go look up Minecraft, there's this guy named SethBling, and SethBling does I don't know, some of the most obscene, like, mental things. This is Minecraft built inside of Minecraft. And then he like shows you, he's like, oh yeah, you're like playing the game, and then he's like, oh, how did I build it? And he always takes you to the back. I guess he doesn't in this one. See, like, SethBling CPU. I mean, of course he did an Atari 2006 simulator, 2600, but he takes you to like the back of the. He's not showing you here though. Oh, there we go. Shows you like the actual machine that he constructed, and inside of here is just endless amounts of little bits and pieces that end up constructing something. I'm not saying you need to go play Minecraft. I'm saying I want you to approach JavaScript in the browser as this extra tool that's been added there to increase functionality. Right? Like, there's things that don't exist, but you've been given the tools to build them. Right? That's what a programming language is for. Like, that's the main idea behind a programming language. And is that all right? Do we want to see more Minecraft? Maybe not. So we're going to, since it's 10:54, finally achieve the goal that we set out to achieve, which was to change the web page to be Nima's web page as opposed to Kanye West's page. And I'd found out that I can get the title, and then I can access things inside of the title. And one of the things that's inside of there is title.innerText. Right? How do I know this? Well, I looked at the documentation, or you can literally just title dot and just scroll through here. It's going to take a while, but you'll find some interesting stuff. Right? Just tinker. Right? And I find that title.innerText gives me a string, and it's the particular text that I see here. Now, when we're dealing with an object, how do I set values inside of an object? We saw that I can get values out of an object like this, but how do I set values? So say I want to set it to Nima Boscarino. How do I do that? Yeah. Maybe, right? Whoa-pow! What? Yeah, I'm gonna make this joke for the second time. That was a total like nunny moment. That was incredible. What does the scouter say? Like, and I can change this thing, right? Yeah. Right. Because I'm dealing with a DOM node, and then the browser does the job of watching that DOM node, right, and painting the screen, right? And that's the idea. That's the basic thing that we're doing with JavaScript, is that you can use it to go touch something and then trust that the browser is going to react to that, right? Again, if you dream it, like, you can do it. It'll happen. And now, let's see, 10:57. Obviously, I can change other stuff in here as well. Like if I was to go find a p tag or something, I'd be able to change the inner text. Do you think I'm also able to change the CSS? Probably, right? In fact, if I look at the title, right, one of the things that I'll find is that there's an object called style, right? And if I look at the object called style, it has all kinds of stuff. And what we have here is literally every style property, right? Such as margin. Where'd margin go? Margin top, right? So I might do something like, let's change the title.style to and font size. And notice this is in camel case as opposed to the way that you would write it in CSS. Right? It's just like this. You say title.size, title style font size is, you're going to do something crazy, 80. Did that change? Maybe it was already 80. I'm going to have to Google this. I'm going to go, okay, well, how do I set CSS with JavaScript? Right? And this might be a situation where I'm not able to like set stuff the way I thought. No, I am. You know what it is? It's just because I'm what some people may call a silly Billy. I forgot to turn this into 90 pixels. There you go, for size. So title font size, 90 pixels. We'll do title color. Sending, you got a favorite color? Green. Excellent. And there's green. Right? Neat. These are all commands that I'm running. Right? So to blow your mind in the end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh the page here. I'm going to say that whenever anybody, right, and I'm not even going to explain this code because I want you to stress yourself and think about how this is going to work, and then we're going to pick it up after the break. I'm going to say that there's the document body, right? And I'm going to say the document.body.onClick. Document.body.onClick, and I'm setting this equal to a function. And in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find document.querySelector for the H1. That's my title. I'll just spread this out a little bit. Got my title. Then I'm going to go title.innerHTML is, I got your last name right? Cool. And then title.cs, how was that? Title.style, cool. Title.style.font size is going to be 90 pixels. And then ultimately also title.style.color is going to be green. Right? When I press enter right now, nothing happens yet. But when I click on the body, wow! Oh, I forgot to change. Because I wrote title.innerHTML wrong. All right, well, it's Kanye West and it's big. It's because the inner HTML was supposed to be written as, inner text, not inner HTML. I'm sorry, saying it's still Kanye West's page. But you get the point, right? I've attached all that code apparently to something that listens on click. Right? Neat? Neat. Now, we're probably, over the course of the bootcamp, not going to be working directly with JavaScript like this in the browser. This is fine, but there's extra tools that people have built, right? More JavaScript libraries, where just like Express gives you the ability to make servers really quickly without having to write all the extra stuff. There's going to be libraries that let us do funky client-side JavaScript stuff pretty quickly with as few keystrokes as possible. And that's what we're going to start the next half with. Right? I don't want you to have come away from this first half with anything actionable other than the browser interprets your document as that tree. You can interact with the tree using JavaScript, and you can just interact with the browser in general using JavaScript. And then I want you to Google how to do that stuff. Cool? All right, so we're going to take a break. I'm going to be generous. Let's do 13 minutes. You do a 13-minute break? Cool. So at 11:15, we'll pick back up. Okay. Oh, are there any questions? I forgot to ask. Yeah, if you do, just ask at the beginning of the next half. I'll see you all at 11:15. Slabs Web Bootcamp week 4, day 2. 4, day 2. Yeah. We were looking at working with JavaScript in the browser, and I did all this stuff in the console. You can do this stuff not in the console. Like, you can write scripts to do this stuff and then run the scripts. Like, that's totally legal. Like, you can do that. Now, it may not be super easy. I was playing Dino Run. Whoops. It may not be super easy for me to inject JavaScript to run on Wikipedia, because I don't work on I don't work at Wikipedia. So like, I can't go ahead and inject JavaScript to run whenever people load up Wikipedia pages. I do have a couple options though. One thing that I can do is install something called Grease Monkey. I guess it's called Grease Monkey on Firefox, but it's called Tamper Monkey on Chrome. And what Tamper Monkey lets me do is it lets me write some JavaScript that should run on pages, and I can say, when you're on this page, run this JavaScript, right? Which is neat. I could also make my own Chrome extensions. Right? So Chrome extensions are just little packages of JavaScript that you can say, I want this JavaScript to run on this page. Right? But honestly, the easiest way to do it, especially if you own the page that you want some JavaScript to run on, is to just link JavaScript to the HTML page. So I'll show you that by doing this. We'll go make a new folder. I'm going to call this JS demo. And in here, I'm going to have an HTML file. So we're going to call this index.html. This is going to be a file that has a bunch of HTML in it, such as an H1 that says, hey, what up? And it should come as no surprise that when I open up this page, I see, hey, what up? Okay? No one's blown away by this, I hope. Then I've already discovered that among the things that I'm able to do in here is I'm able to attach things like document.onClick, right? And this was inner text. And now whenever I click on the document, like, it should do that. And it does that, which is neat. So the idea is I don't want to have to paste this into here. I want this to like just happen. So I can take the code that I would run in my console. I can make myself a file, which I will call, I don't know, script.js. Paste that stuff in there. And if I want this script to run on this page, what I can do is I can go script, source, and then point it to the right source, which is, in my case, script.js. And then you have to close the script tag. Right? And what this does here is this HTML page isn't just an HTML page. It tells the browser, hey, go also load up the script. So something that I might do in the script just to prove to myself that it's working is I'll go console.log, we loaded. Right? And when I refresh this right now, I will see that in the console it says we loaded. Okay? Now I will click on the body, and the thing happens. Okay? So what I'm trying to show you here is that if you own the page, you can inject JavaScript to run. Right? You can inject JavaScript to run by attaching a script tag. Now you might say, hey, Nima, what happens if I want multiple scripts? And I'll say, yeah, for sure, that you can just do that. Here's 2 scripts. I'm just going to make a script named script2. This script's just going to say console.log script2 in here. So I've got my script1 and my script2, and in my index.html, I can just say load up script and then also load up script2. Right? If there was a script3, by all means, right? Add more stuff in here. Right? And when I run this now, I will see we loaded script2 in here, and then I can also do my action. Right? It's pretty cool. So I wanted to show you this because it's possible that I might write a script so amazing, just so mind-blowingly fantastic that I want to use it again and again. Right? Like this script right here, I'm like, oh, it's so good. I want to share it with everyone. I want everybody to be able to use it. And I want to use this in all my projects. Like every one of my projects should have this script in there. That's not beyond the limits of what's possible. In fact, you've already started making stuff like I think you worked on low tide, right? And low tide is cool. You want to maybe reuse low tide in other projects, right? It should be possible for you to include that stuff. So I'm going to look at something that somebody else has made that I want to use. Does anyone know what that thing is called? I hinted at it at the beginning of the... Yeah, it's jQuery. Right? jQuery. I'm going to do the search instead for jQuery. And it doesn't, nah. It says just jQuery. But jQuery is a JavaScript library that somebody's made. It's a fast, small, and feature-rich JavaScript library. What is it used for? Well, it makes things like the HTML DOM traversal, right? Manipulation, apparently that makes that stuff easier. It makes event handling easier. So an event is like that on-click that I did, right? I'm going to show you how to do that on-click with jQuery. There's this thing called Ajax that I'm not going to talk about today, but you're going to talk about tomorrow. jQuery makes apparently all this stuff simpler. jQuery is nothing new, right? jQuery is just somebody has written some JavaScript to make your ability to write new JavaScript a little bit easier. For example, if I was to go through and I wanted to change every single one of the p tags in here to say Nima, how would I do that? I'd need to make a for loop, right? I'd need to go something like const p tags equals, and then document.query selector all, and get me all the p tags. And now I would go through my p tags, and I'm not even, like, I need to go through each p tag and say, okay, just watch me sweat here. P for each p tag, p dot inner text equals Nima. Like I had to go through all the work of saying go through each one, and now I've changed every p tag in here to say Nima, 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 right? I don't know if any of you have watched Being John Malkovich, but Malkovich. Has anyone seen the movie Being John Malkovich before? Yeah, Malkovich. So I can do this with regular JavaScript, but jQuery is going to let me do this in a bit of a simpler way. And, I'm going to use a website that already has jQuery loaded up in it as a first example, and then I'm going to show you how to install jQuery yourself. And here is an example of a website that already has jQuery. So Wikipedia already has jQuery. If you type out the words jQuery, it doesn't give you an error. If I was to go to a different website, like YouTube maybe, right? So here's YouTube. I'm going to go console, and I go in here and I say, jQuery. It doesn't know what that is. Right? So evidently, somehow, Wikipedia has jQuery, YouTube does not, apparently. So I'm going to go to Wikipedia, and I'm going to play around in here. I'm going to show you some of the things that jQuery can do, and then I'm going to tell you to go look at the documentation. I'm not going to spend the lecture showing you the docs. I just kind of trust you to do that. Right? jQuery is what kind of thing? What is jQuery? What kind of thing is jQuery? It's a function, right? jQuery is a function. There is also $. Quick, somebody tell me what the difference between $sign and jQuery is. What's that? What's the difference between $sign and jQuery? Caleb, what's the difference between $sign and jQuery? Nothing. No difference. They're the same thing. jQuery triple equals $sign. Right? You can read this as jQuery is cash money, right? Like that's, I don't know if that helps you remember that. jQuery and $, exact same thing. It's just that it's annoying to write out jQuery all the time, so you can shorten it to just $. Right? It's like a name. Right? It's like, you know, like Prince. There was a while where Prince was known as, like, where this was Prince's name. Right? Like, is no one here a Prince fan? There was an actual while where, yeah, what is it? In 1993, he changed his stage name to an unpronounceable symbol. Right? That's what jQuery is. Like, you just use the $, and it literally refers to jQuery. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I'm going to be writing code that goes $ and then either dot or $ and stuff like that. Right? Since jQuery is a function, I'm able to go $ and then parentheses. Right? Now, jQuery is a thing that is primarily useful for handling the DOM. Right? Primarily useful for handling the DOM, meaning I want to be able to get things from the DOM. And here's like how I'm able to get things from the DOM. I'm going to write this in the docs for you in the notes. jQuery cheat sheet. Okay? Get things. It's going to be $ parenthesis, and then selector goes in here. Right? Says, get me something that matches that selector. I'm going to see that in action right now. If I wanted the H1, it's $H1. And that's going to get me the first heading. $H1. Notice the difference between that and document dot query select. I'm sweating. There we go. Oh man. Right. So both of these got me the H1 somehow. This one was much shorter. And not only was this much shorter, it actually gave me something slightly different. Notice that this here, $H1 returns something that has the H1 first heading in it, but also has some other stuff. Document query selector just got me the H1. So I'm going to say that jQuery, like this stuff here, jQuery gets you jQuery objects. Right? Note, not regular DOM nodes. Not regular DOM nodes, meaning with the DOM, I have access to particular things when I have a DOM node, like inner HTML and whatever, right? Or inner text. So I was able to go document.querySelector.inner text. I don't know right now if when I do $.h1 inner text, whether that works or not. Lo and behold, it does not. Right? So while this thing here does something very similar to this, right, it's not exactly the same. So if I wanted to get the text for a node, I'm going to have to Google how to do that. Right? jQuery, right, get text. I'm going to find that there's a text method. Right? I could use W3 Schools, but honestly, I would recommend using the jQuery API documentation just to get comfortable with it. Sometimes W3 Schools is better in terms of like how it explains stuff, but you're going to find more information on the jQuery API documentation. Right? But what I'm going to find when I do this is, apparently, I can call .text to get the text inside of the node. Right? Slightly different, but it's something I have to keep in mind. So I can go jQuery selector, and then .text, and now that gets me Kanye West. Right? Slight differences. What about when I want to set stuff? Well, I'd found that when I was working with vanilla JavaScript, I got y'all to show me how I could set values in an object. This is not an object. .text is a function call. So if I look at the documentation, I will find out that I'm able to pass values into that function call to set. And again, this is stuff that's not going to be super intuitive. Right? It's just not going to be intuitive because somebody came up with it. Right? And you have to just look at the documentation to learn how to use it. Right? I'm going to put this in here as like an example for setting text. For, we'll say getting / setting text. Or this was the setting, and that's the getting. And, but again, most of your workflow with jQuery is going to have to come around that flow of Googling, how do I do this particular thing in jQuery? Okay. I'm going to look for something right now like on-click with jQuery. Okay. On-click with jQuery, and I'm going to find that jQuery has its own special way of doing that stuff. Right? That we're going to play with as we work on a little demo. So I'm going to stop. Oh, right. I'm going to do one last thing. If I can set the text for an H1 like this, the thing that makes jQuery very powerful is that I can set the text for all the p tags with a single command as opposed to having to make a loop. Right? One single expression that changed 120 things. I didn't need to write a loop because that was abstracted away from me. Right? So the name of the game with jQuery is going to be abstraction. Right? You have to do a lot less. Right? That's abstraction, and it's also working with selectors. I'm personally of the opinion that if you don't understand selectors, you don't understand jQuery. Right? So a challenge that I would like you to set for yourself is to go on a page like Wikipedia and challenge yourself to go find different elements. Right? So for example, I want to go find the random article button using jQuery and then click it. It's a small little challenge that you can set for yourself. If you're having trouble coming up with little challenges, just come talk to me and I'll throw some at you. Right? Little katas to get yourself warmed up. In fact, when I start a project, that's usually what I do is I'll just set a couple little goals for myself to flex and to stretch and warm up before I get into the actual work. So we're going to end this last half by working on a big jQuery demo. Right? jQuery demo. And before I do that, actually, it's been a little while. Does anyone have any questions? Cool. All right. So here's the jQuery demo, and here I'm going to put an index.html, just like I did with the JavaScript demo. I'm going to make a page, says, again, what up or something like that. We'll fill this page up with things. And what I get to do is I want to load up jQuery. And for me to know that jQuery is loaded up, what I showed you was that you're able to go into the console, right? And you're able to type jQuery. And it is not in there yet, because I need to put that in. Right? So in the same way that I'm able to add my own JavaScript files, I'm also able to add external JavaScript files. Right? Notice that the source is very similar to like an image source. If you had an image source with a URL, you're able to do this with the JavaScript source. So I'm able to go, all right, we're going to go find the jQuery library online that I can link to. So we'll go jQuery. There's a thing for download jQuery. Download the compressed production jQuery or all this other stuff. I'm going to show you the uncompressed development jQuery. Because what I want you to see here is, what is this stuff? Is any of it like particularly kind of alien to you, or do you think, does this seem familiar? They use var, yeah, because they're they're garbage programmers. No, they use var because var is okay. You just don't want to use it because it's bad. Don't use it. jQuery is still fine. So jQuery is a JavaScript file, right? It is literally just a bunch of JavaScript code that somebody wrote, right? And there's just a ton of it. If you wanted to, you could sit down and go through and go, okay, well, how does the jQuery, for example, there's a function built into jQuery called Ajax. And we could go find, how does the jQuery Ajax function work? Right? Function Ajax, whatever, and you can go read it. Right? How does the jQuery like selector function on its own work? Right? Now, this is a lot of empty space, right? There's just a lot of space. So something that people do is instead of making you download the whole thing, you can download a compressed version, and the compressed version is illegible, right? You can't read this. It's compressed. And so usually when you're working with a library, you'll use the compressed version because it uses up less space, right? And what I get to do is I just get to link the link to the online JavaScript file. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, what I could do is I could save this, right? Instead of copying and pasting it, I could save it into, where do you go, Lighthouse Labs. We're in week 4, day 2 lecture, jQuery demo. Like I could just save the file, and now it's here. And if I wanted to, instead of linking online, like I could say, load up jQuery 3-4.1. Like I could do that as well, right? It's just then I have the trouble of like also housing this, right? So this is like the link online is convenient, but then there's the trouble of like what happens if jQuery goes offline? What if somebody takes this website down and this no longer exists? Well, then I'm in trouble. So you can kind of choose your battles. In my case here, just because I don't want to save all this stuff in Git, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to save this because then Git only needs to keep track of this one line of code as opposed to a million. Right? But what I can see now is, now that I've loaded this up, when I go into my browser and I search for, that wasn't the right one. When I go into, there we go, my browser, and I search for jQuery, I no longer get an error because I've loaded jQuery up. So what I can do now is I can actually write scripts. I can write scripts. I'm going to call it script.js. I'm going to write scripts that use jQuery. I'm going to go to new file, script.js, and I'm going to say $h1 text testing 1, 2, 3. Right? This is some jQuery code that I've written where when the page loads up, it'll replace the h1 to say testing 1, 2, 3. What I'm going to find right now is when I refresh this page, oh no, it didn't work. You may have noticed that I rushed through one of the steps because I want it to be sneaky. This particular problem here is it says $ is not defined. But I know that $ is defined. I know it is. I know that jQuery exists. But apparently in my script, $ is not defined. So I can look at where my script is being run. Meaning I'll look at my index.html. Here's my script, and here is jQuery being loaded up. Why do we think that maybe $ or jQuery is not defined when this script runs? Because jQuery is not loaded yet. I have to do this in an order, right? So I get to say load jQuery first and then do script.js, right? So the order that I'm loading these scripts in actually matters. It makes a difference. And I want you to think about that as you're building Tweeter. When I run this now, I'm going to see that it does go testing 1, 2, 3. Right? Notice I don't have to do big, crazy things to like learn a little bit and to test this stuff out. Right? I'm building up a good understanding of how jQuery gets loaded. Then I can use it, right? Bit by bit. Right? So now that I have jQuery in here, right, I can use all the crazy things that jQuery has built into it. And the crazy things that I'm going to point out are being able to get things, being able to set things, just like we did. Right? But we're also going to say that in the same way that I was able to look at elements on the DOM, right? Like, what was the other thing that I said we're able to do with this tree? I'm able to delete stuff from the tree, or I'm able to add things to the tree. Now, I can do that with vanilla JavaScript. I can totally do that. I just didn't feel like demoing it because it takes a little bit of time, right? So I want you to go look up how to delete DOM node with JavaScript. Right? I want you to look that up. But for today, what I'm going to show you is how to do that with jQuery. Right? Meaning I'm going to look at one of these and I'm going to say, get rid of this. Or I'm going to look at this, I'm going to say, add another child. So what we'll do is we'll build something similar to Tweeter in the sense of there's going to be a button that adds things to a list. But I'm not going to be dealing with a form. Right? I won't be dealing with that. You'll get to like sort of look at how that works. It's 11:43. Now, okay, you know what? I'll work with a form. I'll show you how that works. I'll be nice. I'll give you a little bit extra. So what we're going to be doing with jQuery is we're going to be creating new elements, right? We're going to be creating new elements with some like text, right? Some custom elements, and then we'll also be deleting some elements. Right? Those are the things that we'll be doing. In order to frame my demo, we're going to pick a theme. And the theme is going to be dogs. This is going to be a website dedicated to cataloging dogs, just keeping track of all the dogs that you've seen. And maybe if you add something that isn't a dog, then you can like remove it. Right? Ideally, maybe you'd even be able to edit the things that you put in there. So as a quick description, a little website, little web page that's going to have a form. Right? It's going to have a list of dogs. Right? And then each item, so each dog item can be deleted. Right? It can be removed. And is there anything else? Nope. That's really about it. Does this idea make sense to people, the thing that I'm trying to build? Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and try to hit this part here. Let's make a web page first. So I'm going to make a new folder. This one's called dog demo. Dog demo is also going to have index.html. The index.html is going to look pretty much identical to the jQuery one. Right? Pretty much identical, except here instead of saying what up, it'll say dogs. And my thing is going to have some form. I'm not doing anything with the form just yet. And here, maybe I'll put a p tag and say, imagine I had a form in here. Just imagine. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to have a container, right? A container, and I'm going to call this dog container, or dogs list, something like that. Dogs container, dogs list. And what I'm going to say about this dogs list is that inside of each one of these, there's going to be like a particular, whoops. We'll call this a dog. Right? Each one has a dog. And every dog is going to have maybe a p tag that says, now we'll do an h2. that says the dog name. We're going to have a p tag for the description. Okay. And then I might even have an image. And this is going to be an image, like a link to an image online. So imagine I had a dog picture here. This is not a real source. So if I load this up right now, it's going to be a broken image, right? But I'm trying to show you what the structure of this is kind of going to look like. And I can go ahead and I can open this in my browser and see what it looks like. Here's my dogs. Imagine I had a form in there, yada, yada. Right? I want this demo to not look terrible, so I'm going to do a little bit of styling. But that styling is also just going to help me show you what the containers are. Right? So usually what I might do is I might actually have a separate CSS file. But I want to try and do as much as I can just on this one page. So I'm going to make a style tag for this. Right? Not great practice, right? But I just want you to be able to see my styles next to my stuff. So what I'm going to say is something like, let's make my H1 just color pink. Just going to make sure that this stuff is working. Yup. We're going to do my HTML color black. We're going to do a black and pink. Oh, no, that didn't work. Background. Edgy dog website. I don't think that's... Yeah, all right. So this is a super cool dog website. We're going to say that the default text color is going to be white. Cool. So some of it is, we'll do Rebecca purple instead. As you can tell, I am a designer. And then I'm going to throw some border radiuses on here, or some borders on here, like the dog list. Dogs list is going to have a border of solid 2 pixels green with a border radius of 5 pixels. Wow, look at that. Oh, man. And then obviously we need a padding of 5 pixels as well. Look at that. This is really coming together. Right? And then each one of the dogs item is also going to have a border radius, and a padding. So the border is going to be solid 2 pixels. We'll do 1 pixel. And then our color is going to be maybe some hex color. I thought there was a way for me to be able to, oh, no. So we'll do red. Border radius also 5 and 5. Cool. And again, I'm just doing this so that you can see how these things are kind of related to each other. Presumably, I might have many dog names, or rather many dogs in here. Right, so here's the second dog. And they're one on top of the other. So what I want to start off by doing is maybe generate these dog items, these dog divs, with jQuery. Okay, I want to make them and just throw them on the page. So I'm going to do that in a couple steps. The first is I'm actually going to have a script file, so script.js. It runs, and in my script.js, what I'm going to do is use my script.js. I'm just going to put a comment in here so that I can remember what the page looks like, because otherwise I forget the structure of the HTML and I just get lost really quickly. I'm going to write something like, I want to find the dogs list. Right? I want to find the dogs list, and I just want to console log the dogs list. Right? And I want to see that this works. So when I go here and I run my thing, I've got, cool, here is my dogs list from my script. And I can even see that inside of the dogs list, inside of the dogs list, there should be child nodes that have multiple things. Right? Now, jQuery is going to give me the ability to actually access things inside of it. So, example, there's a dot, I think, children function that prints out all the children of the dogs list. And in this case here, there's only one. And what I want to do is I want to add to the dogs list. Right? I want to add to the dogs list. And I could look online, like how to add to element jQuery. Right? And I will find that how to add new elements to the DOM in jQuery, there's a couple different ways. Right? One of them is the append method. Right? So apparently there's an append method in jQuery. And this will tell me that append inserts content to the end of the elements in a set of matched elements. So if I go dogs list dot append, maybe I can add some text. Right? And I'm just going to try this on its own. And I go and I refresh my page, and I will find that while it wasn't in my HTML, has been appended to the dogs list div. Right? I want to clarify some of the text that they say here. Insert content to the end of each element. The reason they say that is because, remember when I showed you over on the Kanye West page where I could take all the p tags and change all of their texts? I can also go to all the p's and append something like Nima. And now this has, append. Now this has added Nima to the end of every p tag. Right? One of the things that I want you to remember is that with many of these tools, they have been designed for very particular tasks. Right? jQuery has been fine-tuned to let you manipulate the DOM in simple ways. Right? When I say simple, it still means that you have to learn how to do it. But generally, it's going to be short commands. Right? When you're working with Express, Express is designed to give you, again, simple ways of creating endpoints. Right? Or simple ways of giving you access to middleware. Right? If you find a lot of friction with the thing that you're using, chances are that you're not using it right. And that might be a place to step back and go, okay, am I approaching this problem the correct way? Am I using this tool the way it's meant to be used? Right? And that's a place where you ask a mentor, right? Or at least just reevaluate on your own. Right? Does that make sense to everyone? Right? So that's the biggest thing that I've found as a dev is like, if I find friction with the thing that I'm using, it's two things. Either I'm using it wrong or it's badly designed. Like it's those two, right? Either I'm wrong or the thing is wrong, but most of the time it's me. And so what I want to append isn't just some ha. I want to append a new div of the class dog. Right? Meaning I want to construct a new element. Here's the easiest way to do it. Oh wait, no, we won't do that. We will do backticks. We're doing backticks so that I can write things on multiple lines. If you don't have backticks, a string can only stay on one line, right? But when you have backticks, a string can go on multiple lines. Did you all know that already? No? So fun fact, if I'm in the browser and I go like that, like, whoops. Oh, there we go, I messed it up. This string is fine, but this string is not fine. Right? However, with backtick strings, I can do both that and break this on a second line, and that's still legal. Right? So these are like fancy strings. The reason I'm doing that is because, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm literally just copying and pasting the HTML. Right? I can even indent it to make it nicer for me. Right? And where am I putting this? I'm putting this as a string that's being passed to jQuery. So notice I'm not using the jQuery function to select something. I'm going to be using the jQuery function to create something. So jQuery can both find and create and destroy. right? Find and create is what we're doing right now. And what I'm going to say here is I'm going to append a new element to the dogs list. And when I run this right now, I have 2. Notice what's interesting though, like you might notice that as I refresh this, do you see how it flashes? Like the bottom part flashes? Because that's being added. Like that's not in the page when the page loads. It gets added to the page, right? Right? I could even set a set timeout or something to make that happen later. What we're going to do is we're going to make this happen when we click. Right? So the jQuery function is a little weird because there are these 2 modes of using it. You can use it to find, or you can use it to create. Right? And I would just kind of make a note of that. What we're going to do here is we're going to make a button. Right? We're going to make a button. And my button's going to say add dog. And I'm going to get to say, hey, instead of doing this immediately, I'm going to say that the add dog button, let's find it. So I'm looking for a button.
Could you name that button to be more specific?
Absolutely, yeah. I could just go, this button has the ID, add dog. Right? And now I'm able to say, OK, instead of just button, find me the add dog element. Right? And now what I can do is add dog button. And then there's special syntax in jQuery to say when you click something or when an event happens to something. And it goes on and then on a particular event. Right? So on click. On click, these are the things that I want to do. Right? And all I did was I moved my code that I wrote earlier into the on-click event. So now what's happening is on-click. Here's the button. Every time I click, I get a new dog in here. Right? So again, I'm writing this code that is going to happen, right? Manipulates the DOM, and I've attached it to a listener with jQuery. Right? And you can break these down into smaller tasks, right? Make something happen when I click. Right? That's a task in and of itself that you can do with jQuery in one expression. Right? Change the style of this element. That's, again, one thing that you can do with a single line of jQuery. Right? So when you're tasked with something to do in Tweeter, I really want to stress, try to break that stuff down into smaller tasks and see how each one of them can be one jQuery expression. So we're going to end this off with just a big huzzah. I'm going to throw a form in here. I'm not going to explain this stuff too much because I want you to explore it. You have already dealt with forms in TinyApp. Right? The basic format of a form is that you can have inputs. Right? So here's an input type text. Right? And this one here is going to be, I don't know, it'll be, I'm just going to put some p tags to like label this stuff. This one's going to be the, what did I say dogs have? Name, description, and image. So here's the name. Here's the description, and here's the image. Right, so name, description, an image. And then I'm going to put, I already have this button for add dog, so that's the one that I'm going to use for adding. So I have this name, this description, and image. And what I want to happen is I want to be able to write stuff in here and then click add dog. And I want something to happen. Right? I want the dog to be added in. So ultimately, what I want to happen with button is I want it to print out the stuff that is in here. I want to know that I have access to that. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be able to access the form itself in the on click for the script. So I want to show you that I can grab the form, right? Let's find the form. So when I write some stuff in here, and I click add dog, I can get the actual form. And the form element itself is actually pretty interesting, because among the things that I can do, I have just stored the form as a global variable. You can do that by right-clicking on any value in your console and clicking store as global variable. And your browser will just save it as like temp1. Right? And I want to show you that inside of temp1, one of the things that I have access to is a function called serialize. Right? And what serialize is going to do is it'll take all the values from here and string them together. And it's going to squish them all together. The thing is, it's at the moment unable to find any values, even though I know that there are values in here. Right? Looking at my HTML, what is missing from my inputs? What was something that you had to put in there when you worked in TinyApp? No, so that was for your form. You had an action and a method for your form. But mine right now isn't making some HTTP stuff. I'm using my form just to collect some inputs. Right? At the moment, I'm not doing any HTTP stuff. But in your input itself, there was something that we need to put, which is the name. And that's going to say what that input is for. So if I say that this is the name input, this one here is the description input, and this one here is the image input, what I will find is that when I do this now, add dog, and I try to do the temp1.serialize, what I actually get is the values themselves. Right? So that's pretty cool. Right? I wanted to show you this not because it's necessarily something I'm going to use right now, right? But rather because this is something that you're going to need in Tweeter. Right? So bookmark the serialize function to take a look at it later, right? Because that's what you're going to need to be sending to your server. Again, I don't think that's something that you're going to be doing today necessarily. It's more tomorrow. But just in case it doesn't immediately pop out to you, or in case the lecture doesn't talk about it, I just want you to know about it. Right? So that's going to be take a look at the serialize function. What I'm going to do instead of serializing is I'm going to grab the elements inside of here. So I'm going to find the input with the name and the description and the image, and then I'm just going to use that in here. And the way that I can do that is if I give, if I have my form here, I can search inside of my form. So I could go something like form.children to search inside of my form, for example. Right? I'm going to find inside of my children an input with the name, and the name that I'm looking for is called name. Right? And then we're going to see if I'm actually able to get that. And when I run this right now, my dog is going to be called Spot. We'll add dog. Did I put that in here? No, I didn't. Ah! Oh, undefined. Neat. Well, I failed. Form.children. Cool. And we're looking for input. Cool. By some name, which is name. Oh, I found it. Oh, it did print it out. This is the one. I'm silly. Here it is. I found the right input. I just thought I'd made a mistake, but I did it right. So here's the right input. And if I want a value from an input, right, because this gets me the name input, if I want the actual value, I can go online and see how to get value from input in jQuery. Right? And they will tell me, oh, apparently there's a .val function that I can use. Right? But again, I don't know that off the top of my head. Like, I'm going to need to search this. So put dot val. And now for my name, that's my name. You say, OK, here's my name. And ideally, I can do the same thing with the other three. So description and image. Okay. So this is the description and the image. And then what I want to do is my new element, instead of it having just the word dog name, I want it to actually have the name. And instead of having description, I want to actually have the description. And instead of having this image source like this, I actually want to have the image. Image and description. Cool. And again, zoomed through this a little bit, but I'm just trying to show you that what I have here now is a thing where if I write things like spot, some description, and some image, what I get now is an element built for spot. And if I did another one, Fred, what I get now is an element built for Fred. Right. We're going to, just to end this, I'm going to have one button that clears everything instead of deleting only one dog. Because maybe I'm like, oh, I saw Jackson. Right? And then I realize, oh, I actually didn't see Jackson. Maybe I just want to get that out of my journal of dogs. I thought it was Jackson, but it wasn't. I would like to have a button that deletes a single dog at a time. I'm going to instead have a button that just clears all the dogs. Right? So I'm going to put a button in here. This one's going to be a button that says just clear, clear dogs. And for my clear button, I get to add another one of those. I get to add another one of those listeners, such that something like when you click on clear, right? On click. When you click on clear, I'm going to go find the dogs list, and I want to empty it. I might Google this, and I might find out that there is an empty function. Right? And now there's a clear dogs, which once I've added a dog, I can clear all the dogs. Right? And again, that's made up of a single call. Actionable things to take away from this, right, from this demo, are just that jQuery exists. Right? jQuery is built all around this idea of selectors, like go find something and attach something to it. You're only going to get good at jQuery by playing around with it, okay, and by having like little experiments. And the very last thing that I want you to take away from this, oh wait, I was also going to say you can add things to the DOM and just edit the DOM in general, but Google for syntax. Right? There's no way that you can get that out of your head. Like you're just going to have to Google it. But one thing that you will notice is that jQuery has multiple ways of doing the same thing. Right? And that can be really frustrating. So for example, if I wanted to add a click listener to this button, I can either write it like this, or I'm actually able to say .click. Right? I'm able to do that as well, and that still works. And that can be frustrating, because you're like, OK, well, which is the correct way to do it? The correct way to do it is whichever way is comfortable for you. Right? Here's another example of something that can be done in a couple different ways. For me to create this div with the stuff in it, I can either do it like this, or I can go const new div is, and this here is syntax that says create a new empty div. And if I wanted to put something inside of that div, right, then I can go new div dot append, and then again, I might append something else, such as an h2. Right? I think that this syntax here is infinitely more confusing than this. Right? But if this is something that's comfortable to you, then like you can play around with it. Right? In fact, I think the assignments make you try this out. And so I'll have that documented in the notes when I send it out. But do keep in mind that there's different syntax for different things. So don't get frustrated if you find different answers. That's just the world of jQuery. We've gone a little bit over time. Sorry for that. Didn't mean to. There's just a lot of stuff to kind of pack into this. Does anyone have any questions? Cool. If you do, feel free to reach out. I already have notes online. Like if you check Compass, there's already notes for this. I'm just going to take a little while to like make these notes nice and send them out. But if you're antsy, like you can look at the ones that are already on there. Right? Have a great rest of the day. Message me if you have any questions. And enjoy jQuery. It's a good time. Thanks all.